Guadalupe Island, also known as Isla Guadalupe, is a volcanic island located 250 miles southwest of San Diego, California, off of the west coast of Mexico's Baja California Peninsula. It's also about 165 miles southwest of the city of Ensenada, Mexico. This is where our ship, the Nautilus Explorer, left for a 22-hour trip into the Pacific Ocean. Guadalupe Island is approximately 22 miles long and 6 miles wide. The island has a very rough mountainous terrain and was formed from two ancient volcanoes that erupted and built this beautiful 4,000-foot high island. Many species of birds and plants are endemic, which means they can only be found on the island. Guadalupe Island is a major breeding site for the Guadalupe fur seal and the northern elephant seal, which were thought to be hunted to extinction until 8 seals were found on Guadalupe Island back in 1892. Thoughts were that most of them had been hunted and were killed, leaving behind only one pregnant female elephant seal. This means all surviving elephant seals today share the same male ancestor. The island is also home to a large population of the California sea lion. Also found on the island of Guadalupe is the Guadalupe rock wren, the Guadalupe house finch, and the Guadalupe junco. These are all endemic birds that live on the island. Unfortunately, there are also extinct plants and animals due to the destruction of their habitat by goats that were brought to the island by some local farmers. Guadalupe also has a small Mexican naval base at the southern end of the island. It is also home to a few local fishermen and researchers. But Guadalupe is best known for its great white shark diving. Although there is very little known about the great white shark, it is believed that the sharks that visit Guadalupe Island start showing up as early as late July, and about the same time as the Guadalupe fur seals start having their babies. The males tend to arrive before the females, who show up several weeks later. The sharks generally stay at Guadalupe until the end of December, when they head into deeper water between the island and Hawaii. It is interesting that the white sharks from the Northern California area also migrate to the same offshore area, but there is no known intermixing, meaning no tagged shark from Northern California has ever come down and visit Guadalupe, or vice versa. Why the sharks visit this area still remains a mystery, but it is believed to be a hunting area for the sharks. But what food could they be searching for at such depths? Maybe squid? Maybe swordfish? Or even other sharks? As much time is spent studying sharks at Guadalupe, their mating patterns have never been documented. So if white sharks are not mating at Guadalupe, where the male sharks with inflamed claspers have not been seen, then where does the mating occur? Maybe it could be in the deep water hangout, but nobody knows that. Nor is it known where the white sharks are born, though some presume pupping occurs along the California and Mexican coastline. In any event, we have essentially only been able to shed little light on one of the planet's most famous yet mysterious creatures. But here is my story of encountering the great white shark face to face. The first 2 days of the trip consist of travel. I left Louisville, Kentucky, and flew to San Diego, California. From there, we were put on a bus and taken down to Ensenada, Mexico. Ensenada is a little port city about 2 hours south of the US and Mexican border. Here we boarded the ship, the Nautilus Explorer, to start our 22-hour voyage out to Guadalupe Island. During the voyage is a great time to relax and meet the fellow divers on board the ship. These divers you'll be spending the next few incredible days with. On the third day is when all the fun begins. As planned, I was up a little before 6 to watch the crew ready the cages. although I had really been awake for about an hour, ready with anticipation. The crew had some repairs to do on one cage, so while they got the other cages in place, they made their repairs. A little before 8, the first of 4 cages was open. The boat has 2 cages that are lowered to 40 feet and are changed out with new divers every 45 minutes, and then there is 1 cage at 15 feet and 1 just below the surface. The 15-foot cage opened first, and I immediately jumped in and was ready to see my first great white shark. After 30 minutes in the cage, I hadn't seen anything, but a few shadows that were very deep and weren't even worth trying to get a photograph of. So I decided to make my way back up to the surface to give somebody else a go. As mentioned, the 2 40-foot cages change out every 45 minutes. I was in the third group, so I went in and out of the surface cage and the 15-foot cage while I waited my turn. On my second trip into the 15-foot cage, I was preparing to surface again, when here came a 14-foot female white shark. For the next 30 minutes, I was alone in the cage, going from side to side, gathering as many photos and as much video of her as I could. She was well below me and even stayed below the deeper cages, but it was my first encounter and I was thrilled. The energy that sweeps through your body the first time you see this massive and beautiful animal cannot be put into words, and you very quickly come to appreciate the size and grace of this animal. It is surprising how there is almost no fear of this animal that many claim to be a man-eater and the undeniable apex of the sea. By the time I got to the 40-foot cage, the action had gotten a little bit better, and the sharks were coming closer and closer, and there was even an occasional second shark, but it kept its distance from not only us, but also the dominant female. You can tell the difference between a female great white shark and a male great white shark by looking at their underside. The males have 2 claspers that protrude from them, and the female, they don't have any. My final dive in the 40-foot cage of the day was incredible. Not only were there 4 sharks at one time, but one even got its head into the other cage and had to be pushed out by the dive master. This female even took a nibble at our cage right below my feet. This is what I had come to see. It made for a great day, and we can only hope that it would get even better. All in all, I spent just under 5 hours in the water on day 1. I was in the first group of divers to head down into the 40-foot cage on the second day, and the day started off great. There were 3 sharks right away. Although they weren't very curious, 2 of the 3 stayed around for the better part of the dive, and I was able to get some great shots. Everyone is very impressed with my homemade camera rig, and it has proven to be perfect for diving in the cage. I use one of my 2 cameras to capture video and the second one to capture stills, and it seems to be working out fantastic. After the first dive, I spent a little time in the 15-foot cage before taking a break and preparing for my second 40-foot dive. The second 40-foot dive turned out to be pretty good too. Our last dive of the day started out great with 2 sharks around, and one of them was even interested in the bait bags. I was able to get some video and stills of one biting the other cage at the 40-foot level, which was very cool to see. However, after that, despite the dive master's best attempts to get the sharks to feed some more on the bait bags, they kinda disappeared for the remainder of the dive. This gave me time to get some photos in my Wally the Green Monster hat. Later in the day, I was in the 15-foot cage for a while, seeing a bunch of sharks swim around down below me. I decided to head to the surface to take a little break. However, as I turned towards the ladder, out of the dark came the largest female we had seen yet. She must have been 18 feet long, and her belly was the size of a small car. It was just beautiful to see her gliding through the water with such ease and grace. But as quickly as she had appeared, she had circled the other cages and was off again. On the second day, I totaled 3 hours in the water, which gives me a total of 8 hours of bottom time in just 2 days. Dive Day 3, the last day of the great whites. Knowing this was going to be the last day of diving, I got a great night's rest and got up eager to log as much bottom time as I could. I once again started the day off in the 15-foot cage, and immediately there was a shark looming down below. By now, I had learned the best time to get photos in the 15-foot cage is near the end of the 45 minutes when they are bringing up the 40-foot cages, as the sharks seem to follow them up a little bit higher in the water column towards the surface. I was lucky to have 4 dives in the deeper cages on the last day, as there was a free spot in the 2-man cage that I was able to claim. This actually turned out to be the best dive of the trip for me. For the first 30 to 35 minutes of the dive, a shark was circling the 4-person cage across from us and even hit the cage once, sending the divers back into the middle of the cage. Then all of a sudden, she changed directions and became interested in the cage I was in. She approached our cage and hit it hard once. Then she circled back around to the other side and hit it a second time. Then a minute later, she hit us one more time. Out of the 3, though, I was only able to get one of them on video, as I was blocked once by the dive master and then again by an emergency bailout scuba tank. This dive, though, is what I had come to see. As we surfaced, I was grinning from ear to ear. I captured some great photos and video throughout the day and the week, but it is very sad to be leaving these amazing creatures behind, knowing that I may never have the chance to swim with them again. I spent a little over 4.5 hours in the water on the final day, for a total of just about 12 hours in the water during the entire trip. I understand people's fear of these beasts, but when you encounter them in person, in a controlled environment, you really get the appreciation of just how beautiful and strong they are. You even create a bond with them. It is unexplainable unless you have been there to experience it. This was a trip of a lifetime for me, and one I will never forget.